So who'd we end up with, Justin? Zach Galifianakis?
I suggest, or BioCal suggested. I don't know if anyone's confirmed. Like that would be it. Zach Galifianakis or Jack Black.
We're so like the bar is so high for the rest of us. Not that these aren't great actors, they are, but I think it veers too much into like, oh, the comedy dude. Justin's like, our political expert.
But he got started it.
How about Javier Bardem?
Ooh, okay, that would be good.
Yeah,
Friendo
or Sean Bean.
Sean Bean
so that's the thing. Like, is Justin going to be serious, or is it going to be like kind of?
Justin's always
how he is on the show.
He has a fun way of delivering his information. He's not. Then I
would say Joe Pesci from My Cousin Vinny. That's like a fun.
Or good.
Well, I'll ask Scott or Justin, see what he says.
All right. Yeah. Somebody asked Justin. Who do you want to be? Zach Galifianakis, Jack Black,
Kevin Hart? Actually, Kevin Hart would make a good jury voice. Because he can do that sort of like, I'm doing fine, and then I start shouting.
Right. This is true.
That's going to be a great CD.
Shannon Morse.
Shannon.
We should probably do our show.
Yeah. Oh gosh, it's 1:30.
Yeah.
All right.
Time flies when you're trying to figure out who's going to do your voice.
Casting, casting is always
No, let's talk more about who's going to play me.
And by the way, if people are wondering where Patrick Beja is, he is out sick today. Sadly, we miss him, so we hope he gets well soon.
Yes, get well soon, Bejas.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'll do this one for you. If you could read line 1 today.
Or line 3?
Well, sure. Call it what you want.
I know what you mean. I'm just being difficult. What do you mean, Tom? Line 1.
Why not be like Phil?
Title.
Right. Yes. There we
go. Well, happy to do it.
Thank you. Here we go in 3, 2.
Phil Fisk has supported independent tech news directly for about a day. Why not be like Phil and become a DTNS member at patreon.com/DTNS.
This is the Daily Tech News for Tuesday, May 14th, 2019 in Los Angeles. I'm Tom Merritt.
And from Studio Feline, I'm Sarah Lane.
And I'm the show's producer, Roger Chang.
Patrick Beja is out today. We miss him, and we hope he gets well soon. He shall return, though. We will carry on without him in the greatest tradition of the French Foreign Legion, because we're not French, but he is, making us foreign, and we're a legion.
We stand with you.
With a few tech things you should know.
Sonos is rolling out a software update that enables Google Assistant control in addition to Amazon's already supported Assistant on the Sonos One or Beam or through connected Google Home devices. Yay! As a Sonos One user, I'm very excited about this. The US gets support first, with Australia, Canada, France, Germany, and the Netherlands, and the UK getting support in July. Notably, YouTube Music and Google Play Music can now be controlled via the speakers as well.
Blizzard will launch World of Warcraft Classic on August 26th and 27th. It starts like in the US and UK on the 26th, comes to a bunch of other places on the 27th. If you're a WoW subscriber, you get it at no extra cost. Closed beta starts by invite May 15th, and opt-in for stress tests will open up May 22nd. This is a touched-up version of the August 2006 version of World of Warcraft for those who really miss running a lot and killing boar.
Vodafone announced its 5G network will go live in the UK on July 3rd in 7 cities. Vodafone will sell 4 handsets and 1 home router to go with the service. Prices will be the same as its 4G equivalents.
Adobe Lightroom got a new slider feature to improve texture editing control in Lightroom Classic and Camera Raw. Other new features allow users to share albums in the cloud-connected version of Lightroom, interactive tutorials, and a new tool called Defringe, which can be used to reduce chromatic aberrations that are still visible after using Lightroom's existing tools for removing said fringes.
Ooh. can't wait to play around with that. The OnePlus 7 and 7 Pro were announced in New York on Tuesday. The 7 Pro comes to the US for $699 and features 90 hertz refresh rate in the display, upgraded fast charging, a telephoto lens, and a retractable camera.
Let's talk a little more about that WhatsApp vulnerability. You may have been hearing kicked around. WhatsApp fixed it. So that's the good news to start with. There is no more vulnerability, but it let malicious actors remotely install spyware on phones with no user interaction needed. That's a bad vulnerability. WhatsApp's own security team discovered it. It's a buffer overflow vulnerability in the VoIP stack that allowed some remote code execution just by placing a call to the target WhatsApp account. So the call would come in, the VoIP stack would launch, and the overflow could happen before then, and then you get the malicious behavior in. The call didn't need to be answered for that to happen, and then you could wipe it from the call record after you infected the WhatsApp. WhatsApp says the vulnerability was exploited by an advanced cyber actor, probably a private company working with governments on surveillance, and targeted a select number of users. A lot of folks are assuming this would be politicians, journalists, lawyers for human rights, etc. Financial Times alleges that surveillance software from Israel's NSO group was part of the exploit, though NSO, which markets software to governments and law enforcement, denied any involvement. They said, we didn't do this. We're very good about vetting who uses our software. WhatsApp says all users, just to be cautious, should update their apps and make sure their device OS is up to date as well. But the vast majority of its users are probably unaffected.
Yeah, we were talking before the show about, all right, well, WhatsApp isn't saying how many users are affected. In fact, they went out of their way to say probably very few. I'm not a daily WhatsApp user, but I am a WhatsApp user. And if I get a call that I'm like, I don't know, that looks weird, I'm not answering it. Usually you sort of feel like whatever's on the other side of that call is not applicable to me, right? So the fact that this could be exploited without me answering the call is pretty bad.
Yeah, that's a bad vulnerability. And the fact is, if you have to ask, did it affect me? It probably didn't. They have got in touch with people that they're not saying how they know this, but they are saying people have been targeted. They detected that, and they've gotten in touch with those people.
At mobile payment conference Transact, Apple's VP of Apple Pay, Jennifer Bailey, announced a new iPhone feature rolling out later this year that allows NFC tags to start Apple Pay purchases when tapped without needing a dedicated app. Apple is partnering with Bird Scooters, Bonobos clothing store, and Pay by Phone parking meters initially at launch to start. Apple also says that the Wallet app will soon let users sign up for loyalty cards with just a single tap.
Yeah, this is pretty cool. So if you're worried, like, well, wait a minute, could I accidentally be charged? On your end, it works just the way Apple Pay works now, where you have to initiate Apple Pay and then tap and you see that the transaction is happening, and all the normal Apple Pay stuff happens. It shortens things up on the other end, though. You don't have to have somebody type in a number on a cash register or a point of sale system. Right. You just tap the thing and immediately that transaction begins.
Yeah, I mean, I have not shopped in a retail bonobo store that I can think of, but a Bird scooter, even though I lament e-scooters in general, that is really helpful. I can't tell you how many times I've seen people sort of fumbling around with whatever app as they're standing on the scooter because they're like ready to go somewhere. So it does take a step out of the process. It's pretty cool. And yeah, for a retailer not to have to have a POS system in place.
It's integrating NFC into Apple Pay, which is cool. I think
very cool.
Pay by phone parking meter is my favorite because those apps that you have to get for pay by phone parking meters are cumbersome. So just being able to tap with Wallet, that would be great.
What I feel like we need though is, and this is something that I find annoying about Apple Pay or Samsung Pay or any of the tap to pays at your retailer that offers one or all of them, is that there's no real way. I always have to ask the cashier, like, do you guys do Apple Pay? Yes. Okay. Like if for some reason I forget my wallet or something, there's no great signage where you can just be like, okay, we're good.
Mm-hmm.
If you're familiar with a point of sale system, yeah, like sometimes there is.
But no signage is not an indication that they don't take.
And especially with something like this is something that you want to tout as like, this is the most, frictionless option that we've ever offered before. So it would be nice to be able to know, before you walk into a store, like, oh, cool.
I'm noticing
they do that.
Maybe a little confusion in the chat room. We're not talking about tap to pay at the counter. We're talking about like conceivably, like in the Apple store, you can do with your Apple app. You could go up to a piece of clothing in the Bonobo store, tap it and buy it there and walk out, not having to ever interact with a person.
Right.
So this is using NFC in a more efficient way.
Amazon's Alexa Guard feature is leaving private review and rolling out for free to US Echo users. If you tell the Echo that you're leaving, the mics go on. Then if the Echo hears things like a glass breaking or a smoke alarm or maybe a carbon monoxide alarm going off, it will send an alert to your phone, audio clips, and direct video feed, if possible, if your Echo supports it. If you have away lighting set up, it'll flip on the lights, make it seem like maybe you're home, deter some thieves, perhaps. And users with Ring or ADT Pro monitoring can also have alerts sent to those companies as well.
Yeah, this is nifty. It's not a security system in and of itself, but if you have the Ring or ADT Pro monitoring, having it tap into that would be interesting. I would be worried about false positives with this until I'd used it a while, because I have 2 dogs, and they're wandering around making all kinds of weird noises. I'm wondering how many times we would get an alert, because our Nest cameras constantly are like motion detected. They're like, yeah, we know it's a dog.
There's
We've
also
tried to train it, but it just doesn't seem to work.
Paranoid people such as myself, every time I leave the house and a fire truck goes by, I'm like, are they going to my house? You have that like little moment where you're like, wouldn't that suck? And if a smoke alarm went off in my house and I was not home, even if it was a false positive, I would like the alert just for my peace of mind.
Yeah. And peace of mind. The other side of the peace of mind is the fire truck goes by and you don't get one of these things. It's a little more like, well, I didn't get an alert, so it's probably okay. It's probably not me.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. And Amazon has said, listen, this is not a replacement for, an actual home security system. We can't call the police for you, but it does give you a little bit more data of, if something unusual is happening at the house while you're away.
Yeah, the kind of thing that I would probably more likely use when I'm gone for a longer period of time rather than just, out to the store or something, but still interesting thing. And I'm curious when Google Home is going to do this, or if there is something like that, let us know. feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. Apple has been lucky to be among the companies so far unaffected by U.S. tariffs on Chinese goods. However, the Office of the U.S. Trade Representative has formally begun the approval process for tariffs on the remaining $300 billion worth of Chinese goods still unaffected. This would pave the way for the president to impose those tariffs starting June 24th if he chose. June 24th would be the earliest that the remaining amount could be slapped on. He wouldn't have to do it on June 24th. Could happen anytime after. In light of that process beginning, though, a bunch of analysts started looking at okay, if the tariff were imposed, it would affect a lot of companies, including Apple. What would that effect be on Apple? JP Morgan estimated in a note to clients Tuesday that assuming a 25% tariff, which is a fair assumption, Apple would need to raise the price of its phone 14% to keep all its margins equal. If production of the iPhone was moved into the United States, which that would be another option, okay, we'll avoid the tariffs by just making all the iPhones here in the US. Merrill Lynch estimated it would raise the price 20%. So it'd actually still be cheaper to keep it in the manufacturing situation it is now than it would be to move it back into the US to avoid the tariffs. And JP Morgan says it believes Apple will just absorb the cost, that it won't want to raise prices. So it will eat the cost of any tariffs and take the hit in its earnings and anger the investors rather than raise the iPhone prices and anger the customers.
Yeah, I mean, iPhone prices, they're at my ceiling. That's for sure. So I can't imagine Apple saying, "Well, we'll just make them even more expensive when we offer the next gen iPhone in October." That's not going to work, especially because there's been so much bad press about just phones being too expensive in general. If this were to go through, not that it will, but let's just say for the sake of argument that it does. Sure. Does Apple? Yeah, listen, Apple can eat the costs. Apple has plenty of money, and the company can do that and do a little bit restructuring. But if they decided to move it out of China, where would they go?
I mean, that is something that is not treated in these analyses. And I've heard people suggest, well, you could move your manufacturing to Vietnam. You could move more of it to Taiwan. That's going to cause costs as well. And it all comes down to whether you think these tariffs are going to stay or not. If you, like many people, believe, this is a temporary thing, it won't last forever, Maybe it'll last months, maybe it'll last years, but eventually they'll settle this whole thing and they'll go away. Then you don't want to go through the process of trying to cite a new manufacturer and vet them and get them on board, especially when you're somebody like Apple who really is trying to be careful about the quality control process, and you have those systems in place already.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's not just this. It's not as simple as being like, all right, well, we'll just go somewhere where it's like slightly cheaper, so we don't have to pass increases on to consumers. That would be a huge unraveling of a pretty, with some exceptions, a pretty tight assembly chain that Apple's got going on and has been doing for years.
Also, I'm of the opinion, I think it's sometimes in our heads we say like, oh, well, if this price goes up, they'll raise the price on the consumers. They'll always pass the cost on to the consumers. It's not exactly the way pricing works. You price based on what you think you can get out of people. And if you don't think you can get more out of people, if your cost of creating it goes up, raising that price means you'll sell fewer of them.
Wait a second, Tom. Are you saying that my iPhone didn't need to cost $1,100?
They didn't just say like, well, it costs $1,100 to make, so we'll sell it to Sarah for $1,100. But not only that, but they also don't say, well, it only costs this much to make, so we'll only charge this much. They charge as much as they think they can get away with based on their brand and who their customers are. And so even when their costs go up, it doesn't automatically mean it's smart for them to pass the costs along to the consumer, because the consumer may not buy it anymore, especially in a competitive marketplace when there are a lot of very affordable and attractive Android phones out there. Apple probably thinks they've got it priced right, and so it would be more in their interest to eat those costs, and those costs won't mean they lose money. Eating the cost just means they make less money.
Right. Moving on, Adobe recently discontinued some older versions of Creative Cloud apps, including Photoshop, Premiere Pro, Animate, Media Director, and Lightroom Classic. Adobe has emailed users advising them to upgrade, also notifying them that they're no longer licensed to use these older versions. Further, Adobe wanted that use of the older versions warned could expose the users to claims of infringement by third parties. Now, Adobe didn't say exactly what was going on, but Adobe support on Twitter says that it is related to a copyright dispute. If you recall, Adobe sued Adobe in March of 2018 for copyright infringement and breach of contract. So all signs point to this being the case. I am a Creative Cloud user. I use Photoshop, Premiere Pro, and Media Encoder almost daily. Works well for me. I've got auto updates turned on, so I'm not using older versions of anything. But my first question was, okay, well, this is not something that's going to affect me. But I know some folks were a little miffed about the fact that they are only going to get the last two versions of Adobe legally to download going forward.
Yeah, this is one of those things where I don't think it's Adobe being anti-consumer. I think it's Adobe not having properly expected what was going to happen from Dolby. Why they didn't give Dolby the audit, and this Apple Insider article makes it clear that Dolby used to have a deal that Adobe paid Dolby. They're so close, it's confusing. Adobe paid Dolby per disc, right? Back in the disc days. And when they switched to Creative Cloud and digital downloads, they changed the deal to pay by install. But Dolby wasn't satisfied with the numbers Adobe was giving and wanted to audit them, and Adobe resisted the audits. Maybe the installs were a little higher than Adobe had expected. Who knows? But that's why they're in court, because Dolby's saying, we need to look at these numbers, and they won't give them to us because we think they owe us more money. And we are no longer licensing them our older content, which is in their older versions, which forces Adobe to have to say to everybody like, hey, you're not allowed to use those older versions anymore. I doubt Dolby's going to go after Adobe's customers if they are using those older versions, but Adobe has to say that, or else then they would be liable for people infringing, which Dolby would absolutely go after them for.
You know, and I mentioned this is not something that really affects me. It could down the line, but it certainly hasn't. But Roger, you mentioned that sometimes there are older versions of these Creative Cloud apps that you need.
Need in a way that's dependent on who your client is. I worked for someone 5 years back who gave me project files for all the old stuff that I needed to kind of spruce up, but they were from a very old version of Premiere. And if I had to bring him in, I would have to relink all the assets, because one of the things you can do in Premiere Pro is output, and you can take all the asset files into a single folder and have them all linked to a single project file. if you try to import some of the older stuff, especially from a different platform, in this case OS 10, it didn't all link up, so it was just easier to install the older version and open it up in that, and not have to have that headache of spending 2 hours of basically relinking everything by hand.
Yeah, all the mattress stuffers out there who don't trust banks and keep their money in their mattresses are laughing right now, saying, "Aha! When you own your software, not get it out of the cloud, you're safe." Except, even if you own the old software, you still have a term of service, and that term of service has now said you're not allowed to use this because it's an infringement. Adobe can no longer transfer the right to use Dolby's property anymore. So, oops! It actually affects everybody, whether it's cloud or not. To get all the tech headlines each day in about 5 minutes, be sure to subscribe to dailytechheadlines.com. Got a couple of interesting laptop announcements today. HP launched a 15-inch dual screen gaming laptop. A secondary 6-inch 1080p screen sits above the keyboard and can be used to zoom in on parts of the main screen. Or you could pull Discord over there and chat, or watch a YouTube video that's giving you a walkthrough of the game you're playing. You could even keep track of your hardware performance. There's all kinds of things you could do with that while you're gaming. And the Omen X2S will be available in June, starting at $2,099.99. But the one that caught my eye, and I think it's all of us are kind of fascinated with this, Lenovo announced the first foldable Windows PC, which, yes, my first reaction also was, isn't that just a laptop because it folds? It is, in fact, probably more like a big foldable tablet. But bear with me. Listen to this, because I think it's more interesting than it might sound. It takes the form of a 13.3-inch 4x3 2K OLED display that you can fold in half. The people who've looked at it say that, you don't see a crease in there, although they won't let us photograph the hinge, so it may not be ready for prime time. But at least in this prototype, it lays pretty flat, and the screen looks pretty good. Lenovo says it will weigh less than 2 pounds when it's done. You can use it completely unfolded like a tablet. You can have it partially folded like a book.
Ooh.
You can prop it up on a kickstand and use the included wireless keyboard and trackpad accessory, kind of like a Surface Pro or something. And you can use it as a laptop, with the bottom half of the screen being a touchscreen keyboard or a pen interface. And in fact, the right side of the screen has a battery to keep it weighted when you have it in that laptop position. We have almost no specs on this thing. It is a working model that they let people film using, so we know it works, but we don't know what's inside it, other than it's got an Intel processor. They plan to offer cellular support. It'll come with a Wacom pen and uses USB-C for charging. The models that people tried from Lenovo didn't have a headphone jack, but we don't know if that's a final decision or not. Lenovo plans to launch the device next year as part of its ThinkPad X1 line. So the question is, forget the Galaxy Fold, forget the foldable Huawei phone for now. Does this appeal to you? Because I think it's a different thing than, oh, here's a tablet that folds down into a phone. This is just a foldable tablet that works like a laptop.
It appeals to me. It appeals to me because it's a tablet, then it's 2 smaller tablets, then it's a laptop. That is great.
All of those things.
It's all of those things. And all of those things are things that I want and need, and nothing really gives me that yet.
I'm fascinated by it because, like the Galaxy Fold and the Huawei Foldable before it, I'm not sure if I have a need for it until I've tried it out, right? I don't think I want to use this as a laptop because I don't like typing on touchscreens. I want to have a physical keyboard.
But there's a wireless keyboard that you can use with it. Although the screen would be small in that sense.
It's separate, and maybe I won't like that as much. But that, and the book thing, it's like you. I was like, ooh, that's interesting. But would I do anything
that
other
was
than
actually
read a book on it?
Of all the things, that was almost like the biggest selling point, where I was like, I can hold it like a book and read the left and the right screen, and then, I don't know, press a button, and then the screen advances. That's really cool to me, especially if the display is amazing. Which it, from what it's a nice OLED display.
Not 4K, it's 2K, but it's not bad.
For reading, I'll take it. I'm. We're all sort of trying to figure out, all right, how is this foldable thing going to work? Like, what's going to be, the industry killer? And it does sound like, yes, from early reports, that Lenovo is being very strict about like, nah, you can't photograph that, and nah, we don't want to talk about hinges, and this isn't ready for prime time. So there are a lot of things that the company is obviously still working out and might not be ready for prime time. But if it works as expected, we're getting somewhere. Now we're getting to a point where it's like, okay, you can ditch all these standalone devices if you really do have an all-in-one.
Well, in many ways, it's kind of an evolution of the 2-in-1, where the laptop is also a tablet. And I think the appeal with this is that you just don't have the screen or the keyboard just kind of dangling off somewhere when you don't need it. Like, you have a detachable wireless keyboard, but you can type. I mean, not everything typing on the screen isn't the absolute best way to interface with the machine, but if you needed to, it could work. And the idea of having a programmable keyboard that isn't just a QWERTY keyboard. Oh, I need to basically run my TriCaster, or I need to have some sort of specialized thing. I think it's just the ability to fold it for some reason seems like a really good compelling concept about it. Like, you're folding the screen and you're protecting it, but you can also unfold it. And if you're reading on it, you can fold it like a book, so people can't just be kind of side-eyeing you what you're doing on the train or the plane or something like that.
Well, side angle viewing was a problem with this. Apparently, that's not up to snuff yet. They may improve that by the time the release model comes out. But yeah, the side angle viewing wasn't a feature that protected others from viewing you. It protected you from viewing it sometimes at certain angles. So,
well, but you could say that about any laptop, every time it's like
viewers were saying it's worse in this than other laptops, and you need it more because you're folding it and putting it at different angles more often.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the idea of, let's talk about when it's completely folded. The review I read said there's no pocket you're going to be able to put this into. Like, it's not, you're not folding it down. Yeah, exactly. But it is, at 2 pounds, if that's what it ends up being, that's a nice mobile little machine.
Yeah, they say it folds down to the size of a hardback book. So you throw it in a bag. It's a little heavy, but hardback books are also heavy.
Right. Yeah.
I feel like the accessories, like the keyboard and the pen, are going to be the parts that would annoy me, because they don't go nicely with this form factor. The other thing is, I know a lot of people are like, didn't everybody realize that nobody wants this? Well, we don't know if this is the kind of thing that I'm glad companies try.
Yeah, I'm not nobody yet.
But they said, hey, we figured out foldable screens. Let's figure out what to do with them. And this is what Lenovo engineers made their best effort to say, okay, if we have a foldable screen, we can do this, we can do that. Let's see if people want it. So before you just dismiss this and say it was a dumb idea, nobody should have tried, let's give it a chance to be used. You may be right. You can shout that you were right. I hate everything and I was right. This is stupid. But until we get it out there and have people try it, we won't know if there's an unexpected use for it. So I don't think this is a bad thing for Lenovo to try. I also wouldn't want to say that it is guaranteed to be a success, but I think it's fascinating.
Hey man, I'm rooting for the foldables, we're going to get there eventually. And anybody who's like, nobody wants this, you just haven't seen the right product yet. I don't know if this is it.
Yeah.
But it might be, or it might be inching toward that. Hey, thanks to everybody who participates in our subreddit. Sometimes you share foldable news. Sometimes you share other news. We appreciate all of it. You can submit stories and vote on your peers' stories as well at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. We're also on Facebook. Join our group at facebook.com/groups/dailytechnewsshow.
All right, let's check out the mailbag.
We got a real nice email from Bruce. Bruce and Stu. Stu is Bruce's dog. They're coming in from Chambersburg, Pennsylvania. And Bruce says, I want to comment on the Uber IPO. That was last Friday. And your discussion on them possibly raising prices to actually make money. I live in a relatively small town that has Uber and Lyft. I really only use Uber because it was first to come here. I'm visually impaired. I can't drive. I have a guide dog who helps me get around for shorter trips. That's Stu. Bruce also included a photo. Stu is the cutest. I typically pay $10 one way, including tip, and hope that prices don't raise too high too quickly. I just hope that Uber thinks of those who don't really have an option when public transit is not around. And Bruce, I empathize.
First of all,
Absolutely.
Bruce sent us a picture of Stu the dog, so we're already on Bruce's side, like immediately,
Yeah.
because of that, like playing on the heartstrings there. He is wearing a Nationals cap. Well, that's fine. But yeah, I think this is a great point to say, like, hey,
Yeah.
I know we didn't used to have this option, and life was harder then, but this
Yeah.
option has made my life better. And if it gets more expensive, well, that's going to make it less better and could be problematic. So I hope you're right, Bruce.
Yeah, I think we, certainly I tend to focus on like Uber and Lyft, so convenient. But I have, public transportation options if I want them. Less convenient, but also cheaper. But it's good to remember that there are folks like Bruce who really need something like this, and price increases are. It's not just a matter of inconvenience; it can be sort of debilitating.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Bruce, and thank you, Stu.
Hi, Stu.
And thank you, folks, for joining us. We have lots of great stuff if you're a member of Daily Tech News Show. It's fine to just listen to the show every day. That's cool. You get a lot out of it. That's why we do the show. But if you're like, you know what? I want to support these folks. I want to make sure that they can do more. I want to make sure they can do what they do better. Then become a member at patreon.com/DTNS for less than the price of a cup of coffee, because show me where you can get a cup of coffee for $1 these days. I'm just saying, you can't. It's really difficult. Well, maybe you can, but is it worth drinking? Wouldn't you rather give us $1? You can do a month of membership of DTNS. You get access to special feeds that have no commercials in them. You could get access to Good Day Internet, which is not only Daily Tech News Show, but us talking before and after, just hanging out. And there's other things like the ThreatWire update from Shannon Morse that helps keep you safe and up to date on security news. It's all there at patreon.com/DTNS.
Our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. Please email us early and often. We're also live Monday through Friday. If you can join us, please do. 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 2030 UTC. Find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com/live.
Back tomorrow with Scott Johnson. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
You finished talking and I was about to play the Frog Pants sting. And then I was like, wait, isn't there something that goes here? Oh, right. Me talking.
I know. I was like, there's a beat there. I was like, is Tom ready to stop this show? Maybe he just wants to keep rolling on.
I was like, why is the music still playing? Usually by, oh, right. Me. Okay. Let's see what titles have been submitted in our IRC channel.
Let's do it.
Today's show. Un programme sans beja. Is dolor the French word for sad, or is that just Spanish?
Triste, I think.
Triste. Un programme sans beja makes me triste. WhatsApp.
I might just be making that up because triste is Spanish.
What's up with security? Adobe's Dolby Doldrums. Thank you, Nick with a C. That was fun to say. Tap Apple to pay keeps the salesperson away. Let's see. Isn't that just a laptop? That's pretty good. What spy app? Okay, Sonos. Born ready, not born today. Adobe. Foldable trucks. Who's a good boy? Stu's a good boy.
Stu. Who's that
Apple
Stu?
Tariff. Well, they haven't yet. I can't say they have. I don't know. I actually like the where'd it go? Isn't that just a laptop? No? Am I alone?
It's just a laptop. I'm down with that.
Isn't that just a laptop?
Eh.
Well, but it isn't.
Well, but we answer that. What I like about it is it gets someone to go like, yeah, isn't it? And then they listen to the show and like, oh, maybe it's not.
Well, okay. All right, Zoe. With your 11 votes, you win.
Yeah. All right. That's cool. And then for Good Day Internet, recasting DTNS was pretty good.
Listen, I'm Meryl Streep. This has been a good day.
Yeah, I'm James Earl Jones. I'm perfectly happy.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, pretty over here.
Who's Roger again?
I'm Christopher Walken.
Yes.
Walken.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Our work here is done.
So wait, what was the GDI?
GDI recasting DTNS.
Got recasting.
I bet a few people are going to be like, "What? Who's leaving the show?" Oh, those clowns.
Yeah, it'll be good for SEO
Right.
for a show that's only available on Patreon or YouTube, I guess. So the votes are in, Sarah. The poll ended mere minutes ago. Well, about an hour ago.
Oh, we're talking about live with it. What am I going to live with next for 3 months?
Smart light bulbs.
No, really?
In a last minute surge, the smart light bulb had been trailing throughout this campaign.
It was Kevin.
No one thought they could win.
It was Kevin.
The smart light bulb.
You know what? I secretly wanted this to be.
Now the Pixel 3a did win the Electoral College. No, I'm just kidding. Smart light bulb, 138 votes. Pixel 3a, 130 votes.
Oh, down to the wire.
Yeah. Home camera like a Nest, 68 votes.
I actually thought that it would get more. I guess you guys don't want to see my dog going through my garbage.
Maybe it wasn't clear that they would see Otis. I bet it would have shot to the top if that was the case.
We can always revisit it at another time. I'm really excited about this, actually, because as I've mentioned, I'm the sort of, as much as I'd like to have my finger on the pulse, I don't have a smart light bulb in my home. Not one, never have.
Well, and now we have to figure out what we want to get you. Probably the best bet would be a Philips starter pack.
Yeah.
You get a few bulbs in the hub.
Yeah. And like I said, I've got a lot of input options because my house is flush with outlets and recessed lighting. So, I can get kind of creative about, spreading them out over the house.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, Nick with a C says, I think second place should get a second shot in the next poll. I totally agree with Nick on that. Although I will say, if our next poll is 3 months from now, it might not be the Pixel 3a, but we could definitely throw an Android phone in as an option, whatever the most relevant one is.
Yeah.
It's just Pixel 3a just came out.
It kind of follows the news cycle, right?
Yeah.
And stuff that's available and, what has caught our eye.
Beemaster's like, get her a cheap Chinese smart light bulb that has spyware in it. Problem solved. We can all watch Otis.
Right. You get two out of 3.
2 in 1.
Bad. Yeah. I mean, Otis says Otis is pretty passed out right now, actually, but I know what he would say if he were awake, and that would be that he would like to be the real star of Live With This.
Yeah.
Live With It. I always want to say Live With This because of the whole album, but Otis, you get your own podcast, right? Then we'll talk.
So this Philips Hue starter kit has 4 light bulbs and a hub compatible with Amazon and HomeKit and Google Assistant.
Well, and Google Assistant on my Sonos One speakers now.
Mm-hmm.
I can really go crazy.
Right.
I was disappointed that. So from what I understand, because I've got 2 Sonos Ones. I got one in the bedroom and I got one in the living room. I'm actually not in my living room right now, but if I talk loud enough, I can hear her from beyond the wall. And I was hoping that I could interchange, but you can't. You have to choose one and that's what you use. And then you have to go into your settings and choose another. You can't just be like, yo, wake word for Google, wake word for Amazon within the same session.
You can't have both running at once, huh?
No.
All right.
Not according to, someone I know that works at Sonos. So, boo. However, more choice is good. So I'll take it.
So PC Mag's editor's choices are the Eufy Lumos smart bulb, the Philips Hue, which we just saw, and their other highly reviewed, though not editor's choices, are GE Cree, which, I don't know if without Captain America or Captain Marvel around, I don't know if you want Cree in your house, but LifeX, which is what I have, which don't require a hub, Eufy again, but a different brand, and IKEA. IKEA only gets 3.5 stars, though. Everybody else has 4. I feel like Philips would be the ones to get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Eufy also makes smart power sockets. Nick.
assuming they all work the same way, why would any of them have fewer stars? Because they're less reliable?
Yeah.
Because it's like, all right, well, let's just pick the more reliable one. So it's more about like lifestyle than me being
Totally.
like, it's
Because
glitchy.
the software might be janky, or
Yeah.
or maybe they're, the hardware isn't got as good a range, or they don't have features, that sort of
Yeah.
thing. So
Okay.
yeah, the Eufy and Philips seem to be the two that PC Mag really likes, and everybody knows Hue bulbs. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
I mean, that's the brand I always. If someone says smart light bulb, I'm like, oh, look at Hue.
I do like the LifeX bulbs that I have because you don't need a hub.
And why'd you go? Is that why you went with them? Because it
I
was
went
for
with them
free,
because
or
LifeX sent me them.
right? That tends to help
I mean, they sent them to me.
some adoption
I think I was on Tech News Today maybe when they sent. I mean, they sent them to me a long time
a
ago.
long time ago. And those are what you use in your office.
No, yeah, I have one up here in the
Yeah.
office, and I have one in a lamp by my couch.
Got it. Yeah.
And what's nice is I have it to automatically turn on in the evening and then turn itself off if we forget.
The one in the
You
living
can do
room,
this.
or both of them?
The one that's by the couch.
Yeah.
This one just turns on when I tell the Echo to turn stuff on.
It's funny. The way that so I've got this whole thing, like at night, like Otis goes into his crate, door closes, and then I kind of turn off lights as I walk to my bedroom, which is not difficult to do. But really, the way that it works is if I don't go to my bedroom first and turn on the light, then I've got to like walk through a hallway in the dark. It's not like I have some like palatial apartment, but it would be really nice to just be like, turn on that light, and then I can kind of do my thing. And I'm never actually in pitch black darkness, which I almost always am for like a minute. So,
honest,
just like silly stuff like that is like, that's cool.
We really, you can make routines with the Echo, and you can do this in the Google Home too, where you say, hey, it's bedtime, and it will turn off the light in the room. You can tell it what to do, but you could tell it, turn off the light in the room I'm in, turn on the light in my bedroom.
Yeah.
So that as I'm walking, the light goes off behind me and the light goes on in front of me.
It would be, that's exactly what I need. That's all I need. And again, like, what am I going to save? 15 seconds? Pretty much. But it's more of just like efficiency. Just efficiency.
I wonder if we should get you Philips and LifeX for two different types of experience.
Could.
Is that too much, though?
I don't think it is, again, because I have so many places to put lights. And I also thought that Kevin, who probably pushed us over the edge on the whole smart light bulb thing from our mailbag yesterday, I did think he made a good point where it was like, it's not about comparing models. It's about like, life was like this. Now it's like this. Instead of like, who has the better software, because it's probably in most cases somewhat negligible.
Is that a reason to not have multiple brands though, so that you're not dealing with like, well, it worked fine except the LifeX didn't do this and the Philips did? I
don't know. I mean, again, like I'm coming in blind. Ha ha, no pun intended. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's better to have a couple different options. I mean, we are talking about 3 months after all.
Well, the question is, I think you can without turning the lights on, you can still make this decision. Would you want to say like, I used this one brand for 3 months and here's what I thought of it? Or would you want to be able to say, I used two brands for 3 months and this brand did this thing cool, but the other brand didn't. And yet that one did this other thing cool that this brand didn't.
I think that's more helpful, honestly, because we're comparing it to a life without smart light bulbs, right? So it's like, I can say like, I used this one brand and here's how great it was, or here's how not great it was.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that if you're comparing like no smart light bulbs to smart light bulbs, it's almost better to have a little bit of variety because we've got time. If I had a week, I'd be like, no, one brand.
Yeah, right. No, that's kind of the cool thing about doing live with it.
Yeah.
It gives you more time. All right. Well then, I'm gonna Get the LifeX.
Purple lighting in the Lane residence.
Everything's gonna be purple.
Everything purple.
Woo!
Party.
Oh man.
Party that ends at 9:30 when Sarah starts to nod off.
What? No, I don't want accessories. Just get me to the cart. Sometimes buying is just too hard.
In it though.
Okay, yes, it tells me there's multiple things in the cart. Good. What are they? See, I have some jeans saved for later, and I have to be careful because I don't want my jeans to be sent to you.
I mean, I'd give them back. It's not like it's not like it's something I would be like, no, they're mine. They won't fit.
I still have these hot tamales I have to give you.
A friend of mine, speaking of jeans, he used to work sort of in medical sales of some kind. And he's now working for the chef Jose Andres, who is very active in providing meals to people along border cities, and a lot of philanthropic work. And so his life is very different over the last several months. And he was like, this is the best job I've ever had, so impactful, doing good work. But my waistline is taking a hit because there's just so much food around him all the time, good food, like gourmet, like wonderful food. So he's like, does anyone, like what are like the cool jeans to get these days? Because I just need bigger jeans. And I was like, go legging. It'll solve all the problems. And I was thinking about our conversation from last week where it's like, men should wear leggings. It's elastic, no buttons, no problem.
So wait, are you advocating leggings or jeggings for men?
I don't care. Something stretchy where, his waistline has expanded. And he's sort of like, sort of like, that's just what you get when you're making food all day, for people. So I was like, maybe go into the leggings arena. Like, who's stopping you? Why not? Start the trend. No.
Like
When
for
you
work
for
or just for lounging about it?
For living, to put pants on that. The point is that none of his jeans fit anymore. He's gained weight. So I said, start wearing leggings. You're on the move anyway. They're easy. They pack up well.
Sarah suggests man leggings.
Leggings.
For man who has gained weight.
So annoying. So I've run into this before, especially with light bulb type stuff. California has rules about what you can sell. And I think it has to do with warnings. Like you have to have a warning on certain things that have like LEDs and stuff. And so I will try to buy something on Amazon and it'll say, oh, you can't ship it to that address because it's in California. So then you have to go back and you have to find the California friendly version of the same product.
The one that has the label, the state of California has determined.
Exactly.
Whatever
That's what I assume. I don't know that, but I assume it's because of that. So that's why I'm sitting here sighing because I'm like, oh, now I got to go back and find the thing with the stuff.
I had that when I got my car. I had that little sticker on the window, driver's side window. I took it off immediately.
And it's fine. It's just a hassle. I can have them shipped to California. It's no big deal. It's just that I have to go back and I'm like, why don't you just make one listing for everybody? Why do you have to have a separate listing for the California people? Annoying.
As if being in California wasn't hard enough.
So hard.
It's so hard.
You guys don't know how hard we have it.
Every day it's a struggle.
California with perfect weather.
It's an everyday struggle.
Oh, it's so hard.
Yeah. The palm trees.
The natural beauty.
I actually, I
Notes,
had
notes.
I had a moment where I had to like check myself this morning because Otis
Were
and I
you
were
wrecked?
walking around the lake and they were tree trimming. You know,
Mhm.
because palm trees get the sort of brown and they'll start falling on people if you don't trim them once a year or whatever. And so there were like little areas that were blocked off. Where there's actually you can walk around the lake and then you can walk around the sidewalks above the lake, which is the exact same walk. But I was like, oh, God, they crossed off part of the lake. Because trimming the palm trees in this idyllic
Eyesore.
climate. I was like, Sarah, get a hold of yourself.
Yeah. Not in my backyard.
Yeah, NIMBYs.
All right, you've got LifeX and Philips bulbs headed your way. I think one of them shows up Wednesday, the other Thursday.
Awesome. And on
Cool.
that note, let's say goodbye to the video folks. And then
Video folks, you're the best. Audio folks, maybe
stick around. You'll find
no,
There's
definitely
something to
not.
come.
Stick around, there's more to come.